We begin with breaking news. That much-awaited verdict is in for the Boston bombing trial. Now we await the punishment. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was found guilty of planting a bomb at the end of the Boston Marathon route, an area choked with thousands of spectators, so many children. The jury finding he killed 3 people there, along with the murder of an MIT campus police officer hours later. There were a total of 30 charges, 17 counts of which carry the possible death penalty. We bring in 2 highly distinguished and experienced attorneys on what happens next. We begin with Doug Burns, former federal prosecutor. Doug, now we go to death penalty or not. What do you think? Yes or no?
I think he's going to get the death penalty.
In Massachusetts,
yes,
a state where many people don't think
the debate on that's like a roller coaster, up, down, up, down, up. Meaning in the state, the Commonwealth, they don't have the death penalty. Okay, but it's in federal court. It's a federal crime that carries the death penalty. And the jurors were specifically death qualified. You've heard other experts explain that. That means they're asked a series of questions during the jury selection, or voir dire, we call it. Can you impose this penalty? They've been cleared as a death qualified jury. So we'll see what happens. But I think that when you look at the horrific nature of what happened, I think that he is going to get the death penalty.
Okay, let's flip it to the other side.
Sure.
And it's what they do in debate. They make you take the side.
I've been doing that for 30 years, right?
Let's do it.
Go ahead.
Make the case for no death penalty. What will Judy Clark, his defense attorney, say? I'm guessing she will push hard on he was under the Svengali-like control of his older brother.
We saw what she was going to do right from the outset.
Which is?
Make it as though he was much less culpable, under the heavy influence and corruption of his brother. Don't forget, this woman saved Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, Jared Lochner, who shot multiple people, including a congresswoman, Gabriella Giffords, from the death penalty. So she's sort of the Houdini, as it were, of the courtroom in terms of death penalty. However, I think this is more like the McVeigh case. I'm sorry.
Okay, and Timothy McVeigh, who was, of course, the Oklahoma City bomber, he got the death penalty. He no longer lives and breathes on this earth.
No, he doesn't. And I'll tell you what, you made a great point, though, seriously, and that is that this thing in the opening statement about the brother, she ran that up the flagpole, as we say, and to see how or if on any level whatsoever that would resonate with anybody, very hard to tell. Now we're going to see more in the bifurcated, separate death penalty phase.
There's so much video, and part of the video was the chase afterward, this massive manhunt. There was that boat in which he was hiding in somebody's backyard, and they used X-ray cameras right there, and they found him hiding. Can he use that? And, I was under duress. I'm pathetic. I was 21 years old. Or now back then he was 19. Yeah,
it's interesting because you reminded me of a point I made in reverse just a couple hours ago, which is that, a lot of the actions that he took afterwards, though, I think the government, the prosecutors, are going to stress were inconsistent with remorse, planning, obfuscating, etc. But I see your point as well. And as you say, that's why you can argue both sides of it. But I think it's an uphill battle. I said earlier, how did this idea hit the jury that he was under the Svengali-like influence, as you so well put it? I mean, I don't think it impressed them that much, honestly.
How about
hard to say, though.
The venue issue.
Oh, yeah.
Boston's strong. You've got Boston people on that jury.
Right.
2 years ago, by the way, folks, 2 years ago, sitting on this set is when the news broke that there was an explosion at the Boston Marathon. I worked in Boston at Channel 7 for many years. I covered the marathon 3 times. Right away, I said, wait a minute. This isn't some electrical fire. And then the video simply showed everything.
There comes a point, amplifying what you're saying, and you're right, where something is just so horrific. I know I sound like a broken record, and other people have been saying
it. But if you had to defend him, would you go for the brother issue? Would you go for the venue issue? Would you go for he was a young kid under duress? These guys, the government alleged, were homegrown terrorists with the Islamic insanity going in their heads.
Absolutely. I mean, look. On many levels, you hate to use this term, but it's an indefensible case on the defense side. Think about it. You're going to represent this person. As you pointed out right at the outset, here you have videos, all kinds of compelling evidence. It's almost impossible to defend. So what are your default options? One type of either temporary insanity itself, or this mixed gambit. What was interesting, though, is that saying that the brother was so much more involved, she was trying to confuse a couple of concepts. She was almost trying to make it sound like he wasn't guilty.
Right.
When, in fact, she was really saying he's guilty, but less so.
And this is a personal thing.
Go ahead.
We show the victims. It's really important.
Sure.
4 people who died.
Absolutely.
You had an 8-year-old boy named Martin Richard who was weeks away from...
No, it's horrible. I mean, I deal in dry legal technicalities, seriously, legal principles. But the reality is when you just look at the human part of it, as you just pointed out.
Crystal Campbell, Ling-Ji Liu, and then, of course, Sean Collier, the MIT campus police officer.
Really very tragic situation.
Well, we will see. But Doug Burns is saying death penalty.
I think so.
And any news we get on this, we absolutely will continue to cover it. Now, let's get